The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
10 years later, the truth came out. Naria was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador. There were no dead babies. She was never at the hospital.
The Simpsons predicted that in 2026, a virus named HMPV could start in the United States. In their story, the infection spread very fast across Springfield. People began to feel sick with sore throats.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by Upside. Pop quiz. Which of these statements is true? Eggs raise your cholesterol. You need 8 glasses of water a day. Milk builds strong bones and teeth. Trick question. None of those are true. Diamonds are rare, right? No, they're not. Depression comes from a chemical imbalance in the brain. Nope. Now, these aren't mistakes or outdated science. These are psychological operations, psyops. Now, when creators say, this is the video they don't want you to see, it's usually clickbait, and I should know because I've done it. But this truly is information that the people in power don't want you to know. This is the secret sauce, the 11 herbs and spices. Today, we're going to name names, we're going to speak truth to power, and yes, I'm going to expose people you admire. So, the NCI test, what is this thing? Well, NCI stands for Narrative Credibility Index, and Chase Hughes studied hundreds of psyops, government propaganda, corporate lies, social media manipulation, all of it. And he found 20 patterns that appear consistently in every psyop. Things like timing, emotional manipulation, tribalism, specific messaging. 20 questions, score each 1 through 5. Total above 70, that's a psyop. Below 40, probably legit. Between 40 and 70, that's the most dangerous of all because that's a psyop based around the truth, but with an agenda, and that agenda is never to help you. Okay, that's the scoring system to keep in mind, 0 to 100. Here we go. October 10th, 1990. Now, fossils like me will remember this. A 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl named Naria testified before Congress. She was volunteering at a hospital when Iraqi soldiers stormed in.
The second week after an invasion, I volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital with 12 other women. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns.
Hands up, move. Over that way. Fucking licenses.
They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor. It was horrifying. I could not help but think of my nephew, who, if born premature, might have died that day as well. The Iraqis have destroyed everything in Kuwait. They stripped the supermarkets of food, the pharmacies of medicine, the factories of medical supplies, ransacked their houses, and tortured neighbors and friends.
Now, Congress demanded action. Senators called for war, and a few months later, the United States was at war with Iraq. So, let's run the test on that story. Timing, 5 out of 5. Her testimony landed exactly when the Bush administration needed public support for a war that nobody wanted. Emotional manipulation, 5 out of 5. It doesn't get more emotional than dead babies. That's psychological napalm. Uniform messaging, 5 out of 5. Every news outlet told the story the same way, with the same language, same talking points. There was no independent reporting. Missing information, 5 out of 5. There were no other witnesses, no follow-up interviews, no verification allowed.
Look what they've done over here. This fence was all busting on the ground.
Authority pressure, 5 out of 5. This was congressional testimony, not some rumor on Usenet.
Did you just say Usenet?
It was 1990. A lot of the internet in the 80s and 90s was Usenet, you know, news groups.
No. I know what Usenet is. Let me ask you 2 questions, yeah?
Go ahead.
1, were you on the internet before 1990?
Yes.
2, could you find a date for prom?
No.
Uh-huh.
Now, we could run through all 20 questions for this, but you can already see the pattern. The final score was 88 out of 100. That's an overwhelming sign of a psyop, and that's exactly what it was.
All in the ground it was. And they came on and fixed it then, look.
Though we didn't know it at the time. 10 years later, the truth came out. Naria was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador. There were no dead babies. She was never at the hospital.
It was all part of a campaign to turn Saddam Hussein, at least in the public consciousness, into Adolf Hitler. And the feeling was that they couldn't sell the Gulf War without this. In other words, they had to cheat to win.
The NCI system predicted the lie a decade before anyone admitted to it. Over 100 Americans dead, 500 wounded, 30,000 Iraqis killed, and a bill to U.S. taxpayers of $1.3 trillion. Though it's closer to $1.9 trillion if you factor in the interest we had to pay to borrow the money to fight a war based on a lie.
What the fuck? They're at it again. I'm after coming back. We brought in reinforcements a while ago and all. I thought I'm after running them. I thought they ran like rats out there, but no. As soon as I turn my back, they're back again. They're after opening up the whole fucking place now altogether. I mean, they say, what are they doing? They're the talk of the country. Look at that. This place was a jungle. You couldn't see across there for love of the money.